Yeah, good morning. Today's topic in business is organic growth, which is chapter 6. So when we talk about organic growth, remember the last time we talked about growth, which can be divided into organic and inorganic. Today we're going into organic growth. So when we talk about organic growth, we're saying that a business has tried to expand using its own natural resources. The business do not take any resources from outside of the business. That is what organic growth is. So here I wrote, it usually involves the business growing by building on its strength to increase sales. So organic growth involves a business trying to use its own capacity, its own ability to increase its sales. That is what organic growth is. So we have different methods of organic growth. We have using new customers, new products, new markets, new business model, and franchising. So these are the 5 methods of organic growth. Number 1, new customers. We can grow through the new customers. We can expand by introducing new products. We can expand by entering into a new market. We can expand through finding a new business model. We can also expand using franchising. So we take one at a time. Go to new customers. So when you talk about new customers, I wrote, this approach may need investment in marketing as it involves enlarging the customer base. So when you talk about new customers, a business trying to improve or increase its capacity by ensuring that it can accommodate more customers. That is new customers. So what can the business do in this respect? A business can increase its channel of distribution. One. A business can also try to increase its capacity to reach full capacity by maybe getting more premises where it can produce further goods. So if a business can do this, it means it can increase the number of its users. So that is what we mean by new customer. So logically, we are saying a business can grow organically by increasing its customer base. And to increase your customer base, it means you want more customers to buy from your product. And for you to have more customers to buy, it means in your own side, you must increase your capacity, or you increase or you expand your channel of distribution. And when you talk about the channel of distribution, we're talking about the links at which the product move from the producer to the final consumer, which means we're talking about maybe producer to the wholesaler, to the retailer, to the consumer, or the producer to the agent, to the wholesaler, to retailer, to the customer. So you try as a business, if you want to expand organically using new customers method, you can increase your capacity or getting more premises that would allow you to be able to produce further. That is for new customers. The second one, go to new products. So when you talk about new products, I wrote, this involves investing or developing new products or modifying existing products. So here, a business can also expand using a business can also grow organically by expanding using or producing new products. So when you talk about new products might mean developing a new product or modifying or making amendments to existing products. So when you do this, it means you are also expanding organically because you are not using resources outside the business. You are expanding, you are making the products becomes more better in terms of the resources you have, using the resources you have. So that's another method of organic growth, which is new products. The first one I talked about is new customers. And for new customers, you are trying to exploit the market, finding new customers. And to find new customers, it means you want to increase your customer base. And for you as a business to increase your customer base, you need to increase either your channel of distribution or the capacity you use in terms of production. Then we talked about new products. For new products, it implies that a business is trying to develop a new product or trying to modify the existing products. So the third one is new markets. So when we talk about new markets, yeah, I said this could be called geographic expansion. When we talk about geographic expansion, it means a business is trying to grow by selling in new areas. You're trying to sell maybe abroad. Your business is in Tripoli, you're trying to sell in Benghazi, you're trying to sell in Istanbul and the West. So this is what we mean by geographical or geographic expansion. You're trying to sell in new areas. So when you're trying to sell in new areas, it means you are trying to explore new markets. So this is another method of organic growth, which is the third one, new markets. It means you are trying to sell outside your geographical location. So that's the third one. So this organic growth involves finding new markets for products. That is the same as new markets. You have your product already, or you are trying to find a new market for the product. So this is geographic expansion, which is also an organic method of growing. So the fourth one, new business model. So when you talk about new business model, it involves two things. It means you are trying to use the social trend or technological advancement to increase your business or to improve or to increase your production. So you might start selling online to increase your sales. So this is also an expansion, and that is what we mean by new business model. So the new business model is about the social trend or technology. So when we talk about technology, we're talking about selling online. As you sell online, it means you are expanding your production method of selling. So which is also an expansion organically. Then the fifth one, which is the last one, is franchising. Using franchise. So what is a franchise? A franchise is an agreement that allows a business, which is the franchisor, to help other businesses who are franchisee to use their brand. So a franchise is a brand agreement from the franchisor to the franchisee. So who is the franchisor? The franchisor is the business offering you the franchise, offering you the ability to use its brand name to sell or its product, offering you the ability to sell its product on your own, on your own business or in your own premises. So the franchise is there. The franchise is there. It's an agreement. The franchisor is that person or that business giving out the franchise, and the franchisee is that business or that entrepreneur buying the franchise. So franchise is also an organic growth. It is not integration. It means the business is expanding using other entrepreneurs. So that is what franchise is. It means you are expanding your business using franchisees. So these are the 5 methods of organic growth. The first one is increasing your customer base, which means new customers. The second one is modifying or developing a new product, which means new products. The third one is trying to sell your market in new areas, which is geographic selling or geographic expansion. The fourth one is new business model, which means we're thinking about social trend or technological operation. And the last one is franchising, which means you are giving other entrepreneurs the ability to sell your own products using your brand name. So these are different methods of organic growth. So we go into advantages of organic growth. Remember, organic growth means you are expanding your business using your own resources. So when you are expanding your business using your own resources, what are the benefits you stand to gain? Number one, it is less risky. Here I wrote, it can prevent errors as they are cultures, norms, and practices of the business, which are well known and understood. So this implies what? This implies that it can avoid the complication that might occur using integration. So organic growth is less risky. Why is it less risky? It is less risky because you're not involving third party. You're not taking resources from other businesses. So it means there won't be any complication. It means whatever happens within your business, you alone knows it. You know better. It is the practice that you've been doing. It is the culture you know about. It is the norms of the business. So they are all what the business understood. So it doesn't involve you understanding other businesses when you are merging or when you are being acquired. So it is less risky. It does not have to involve other it does not have any complication which could occur when you are integrating with other businesses. Because in other businesses, you need to understand their culture, you need to understand their norms, you need to understand their practices, which might take time. And because of understanding this, it might also lead to conflicts, and that the business might fall or the business might fail. So you don't need to understand other companies' culture. You don't need to understand other companies' norms. You don't need to understand other companies' practices. It is your business. It is your practices. It is your culture. It is your norms. They are your norms. So it becomes easy. It doesn't involve, it is less risky because it does not have any complication. There are things that you've been doing before. So that is one of the advantages of having to grow organically. 2, it is relatively cheaper. Why is it cheaper? It is cheaper in the respect of you opening the business or expanding your business with retained profit. You don't have to source for finance externally, because when you source for finance externally, you might need to pay interest. So here you can, because organic growth means you are expanding using your own resources. So it means you can expand your business by putting back the profit you make into the business after the tax, which is what we call retained profit. So putting retained profit back into the business can help you to expand your business without you having to pay interest. So that's why it is relatively cheap. I'm going to say that again. It is organic growth is relatively cheap. It is relatively cheap because it does not involve you to find or source for finance externally. When you source for finance externally, you might need to pay interest. Or even internally, sometimes you might need to pay interest. But through organic growth, it means you are using your own resources. And the profit you make is your own resources. So putting the profit back into the business means that you are using your retained profit as your capital. So it is relatively cheap. The third advantage about organic growth is you can keep control. Organic growth involves you using your own resources, as I said earlier. So no outsider will have controlling interest in your business. So it is just your business and your business alone. So if you are growing your business, organically, there's no point having outsiders who have interest or who have interest to control the business or have interest of controlling your business. So the business will be controlled by you. That means you keep control of the business. Unlike when you are integrating, it might mean that the highest shareholder will take over the business. Or when you are being acquired, it means the control is out of your hand. So, but in organic growth, that does not happen. That does not happen at all. It means you are growing your business, you have the control of the business because you are growing it gradually. So that's the third one. The fourth one, better protection. So when you talk about better protection, we're talking about financial protection. When you are growing your business organically, you don't need to strain your financial resources. You don't need to start finding money. You don't need to start taking money from your cash flow. You don't need to start taking money that is meant to buy more products or money that is meant to pay your workers into expansion. You don't need to do that. So you would not be able to strain your financial resources because you are growing gradually. So that is also an advantage. It means you are able to protect your financial resources. The fifth one, avoid these economies of scale. When there is growth, there's likelihood for economies of scale. And what is economies of scale? We said economies of scale is a cost advantage as a result of expansion. So when you are growing organically, you might be able to understand or you might be able to see the problems of enlarging or expanding your scale because the business is growing gradually. So when whatever happens, you'll be able to know that, oh, this thing happened or this thing occurs as a result of our expansion. You're not growing fully, you're growing gradually. So whatever mistakes that occur within the course of you expanding, you will be able to quickly notice it. So that means you'll be able to avoid these economies of scale. What is these economies of scale? These economies of scale is a cost increase as a result of that arise as a result of expansion. If you are expanding your business, logically your cost should reduce. But if your cost is not reducing in the course of you expanding your business, it is diseconomies of scale. So, but if your business, if you are growing your business organically, it means you'll be able to notice whenever there is a problem, because you are growing, you're not expanding fully, you are expanding gradually. So whatever problem that will cause, you'll be able to notify, you'll be able to notice it. So why? Because it is easier for a business growing organically to possibly see the difficulties resulting from scale increase. So because you are growing gradually, whenever there's a difficulty, you'll be able to notice it because you are growing gradually. So these are the advantages of organic growth. So we go to the problems that a business growing organically could face. One, slow pace of growth. A business that is growing gradually means your growth is at a slower pace. This might not go well with stakeholders. Your stakeholders might be affected because when a business is growing at a slow pace, it means the returns on investment for stakeholders would also be at a slow pace, which might make them to think of taking over your business. So a business growing organically might move at a slower pace, which might not be good enough for stakeholders, which might cause the business to fail. Two, lack of access to resources. A business that is growing organically won't use other people's or other businesses' resources, which might mean that the business won't be able to develop products or develop businesses that will be profitable. Because organic growth means you are growing using your own resources. So when you grow using your own resources, you might not be able, it might prevent you from using resources that are owned by other businesses. So when you are unable to use resources that are owned by other businesses, it means you might not be able to do businesses that could develop into profitable projects. So that's another problem you have, growing organically. Remember, organic growth means you are growing using your own resources. And when you are using your own resources, you might not be able to use resources that are owned by other businesses to develop a project that will be profitable. The third problem using organic growth or growing organically is that you might not be able to compete with other firms in that market. So here I wrote, a business growing organically may not have the ability to compete effectively. For example, you might not be able to match the advertising budget of businesses that are larger in that market. So because you are growing organically, because you are using the resources you have to expand your business, you might not be able to compete with larger firms that are integrated in that market. Maybe because they will have more financial budget than yours. So if they have more financial budget than yours, they might be able to advertise better than your own advertisement. Their advertisement might outgrow your own advertising. So which means you might be losing out on customers based on marketing or based on advertising. So that is another problem you might have, or you could have as a business when you are growing organically. You might not be able to compete effectively with businesses that are integrated. And when you talk about integration, we're talking about inorganic growth. The fourth problem is unable to fully exploit economies of scale. Note, when the business is growing, there's likelihood you have to benefit from economies of scale. But if you are growing organically, you might not be able to witness economies of scale in the short run. It might take a bit of time before you can enjoy economies of scale. Why? Because you don't have the financial constraint to explore or to exploit that market. Because one, when you are growing organically, you won't be able to buy more raw materials like those businesses that have integrated in the same market as yours. Businesses that have integrated in the same market that you are in might have the financial capability to buy more products, to buy more raw materials, which you might not be able to buy because you are growing organically. So you will be thinking of using your retained profits to expand your business. They will be thinking of getting loans from banks because they can be attractive to banks. They have access to financial economies of skill, which you might not have access to. So this might reduce your exploitation in economies of skill. So a business that is growing organically might not be able to enjoy economies of skill within a short period of time. So in the long run, you might be able to enjoy economies of skill. But unlike a business that is growing inorganically, a business that is growing inorganically might enjoy economies of scale even from the short run. So that's the difference between a business that is growing organically and a business that is growing inorganically. The fifth one may be inappropriate. So that's another problem. Organic growth may not be appropriate if the market is growing rapidly. If the business that is growing rapidly or gradually is in a market that is growing rapidly, it becomes inappropriate because in that market, the market is growing gradually, the market is growing rapidly, and you are moving slowly. So you won't be able to meet up with the pace at which the market is growing. And when you are unable to meet up with the pace at which the market is growing, that means you won't be able to exploit the opportunities in that market. So which means you might fail as a business. So here I wrote, a market growing rapidly may need more resources, labor and capital to keep up the pace, as this might be easier done by merger and acquisition. But because you are growing gradually and the market is growing rapidly, and for those that will be able to meet up with the pace of that rapid growth are those businesses that have integrated either through merger or acquisition. Because with merger and acquisition, they will be able to have more, they will be able to have more workforce, they'll be able to use more resources, unlike you that you are growing organically. So you won't be able to meet up with the pace in that market. And when you are unable to meet up with the pace in that market, you won't be able to explore the opportunities in that market. So this is all about organic growth. I'm quickly going to recap it. We said organic growth means growing within the business, using your own resources, your own capacity to increase your sales. Organic growth could occur in different methods, using new customers by increasing your customer base, new products by developing new products or modifying existing products, new market by selling your product into a new area, which is what we call geographic expansion, new business model using social trends or technological operations, franchising by giving out a franchise to franchisees, to other entrepreneurs to sell your product or to sell your product using your brand. That is also another way of expanding organically. Then we talk about the advantages of organic growth. One, which is less risky because it avoids all the complication of integration. Two, it is relatively cheaper because you only need to use your retained profit, which means you don't have to pay interest on loan. Three, you keep control. So whoever is coming into the business does not have the interest of controlling your business. It is organic. So any outsider will not have access to your control. You can't control it. Better protection. So another advantage is that you won't be able to strain your financial resources because whatever finance you need, it's within the business. Five, you'll be able to avoid these economies of scale. Why will you be able to avoid these economies of scale? You'll be able to avoid these economies of scale because it's a gradual growth. So whenever you grow and you find out there's a problem, you'll be able to notice the problem and make amendments. So that's about the advantages. Then we'll go to the disadvantages again. One, slow pace. Slow pace of growth. Slow pace of growth is not a problem for the business, but it's a problem for stakeholders. As stakeholders would want a quick return on their investment. And if they are unable to get that because you are growing organically, they might think of taking over your business. Two, lack of access to resources. We already state that organic growth means you are growing using your own resources. So when you are growing using your own resources, it meant that you won't be able to use other businesses' resources, which might mean that you won't be able to develop or go into a profitable development project because you would need resources that are owned by other businesses. 3, unable to compete, unable to be competitive. You won't be competitive like other businesses because you are growing organically. As you are growing organically, you might not have that capacity to compete effectively with larger businesses that have integrated through merger or acquisition. 4, unable to fully exploit economies of scale. Yes, businesses, when they grow, definitely they're going to enjoy economies of scale. But when you are growing organically, in the short run, you might still incur more cost. But in the long run, you might start enjoying economies of scale. Unlike a business that grows inorganically, which means integration. A business that grows inorganically might start enjoying economies of scale even in the short run. And the last one, it may be inappropriate. It might be inappropriate in the case as this. If the market is growing rapidly and your business is growing gradually, it means that something is missing. You might not be able to meet up with the pace. So how can you meet up with the pace of the market that is growing rapidly? You need more resources. That means you could need to merge with other businesses. You could need another business to take over your business. So because you are growing gradually, because you are an organic business, your growth is organic growth, you might not be able to have the opportunity to integrate with other businesses to meet up with the rapid growth in the market. And this might mean that you miss out in opportunities that could occur or that is available in that rapid market.